Jimmy Thang, you're here. A new graphics card has come out.
Yes.
The 1060, which is 10 lower than the last graphics card.
Yes, it is 10 lower than 1070.
So that leads me to believe that this is perhaps some sort of budget card in that same family.
It's in the same family. It uses the Pascal microarchitecture. Budget, not so much. I would say mid-range.
Okay.
So it's starting at $250. The card that I reviewed is essentially the reference model, the Founders Edition, which is $300.
Right.
And yeah, it's basically the card that a lot of people will get because it offers really good performance for 1080p, and it's not outrageously expensive.
Right. Yeah. 250 seems like pretty like standard. Or
I think
good
it's
for-
actually like one of the most popular price ranges.
right.
It's
It's weird how that consumer purchasing sort of stuff goes, where they know where people.
Yeah,
sit.
I mean it's in a nice area because like if you spend too much money, if you spend over $500, you get diminishing returns.
Yes.
Right? It's for the people who have disposable income out there, and then if you spend too much, it's like later on down the road you're gonna have to upgrade or whatever or you'll want to. But this is sort of in that sweet spot.
So we talked a lot last time about the pros and cons of going for the 1080 over the 1070. It's kind of impossible to talk about these cards without referring to the rest of the members of their family. So what is it about the 1060? Like how close is it to the 1070? How much worth is it just like throwing in that extra couple of cash if you have it to get the 1070?
Sure. So the 1070 is, let's see, I wrote this down. It is 23% faster than the 1060, but it's also 33% more expensive.
Right.
So the 1060 is actually a better deal. If you like, most people game at 1080p. If you want a game at that resolution, then I'd say go with the 1060. The 1070 is more for like 1440p, or if you want to like sort of dabble in 4K.
Right. What about, where does virtual reality come into this then, do you think? Because I'm kind of super layman when it comes to this. Like I built my own PC again 9 months ago, but I don't keep on top of it all the time.
Sure.
But it seems to be that people are saying you should get that extra bit of power if you're going to try and run virtual or multiple monitors, I guess, which is what VR requires.
I mean, I think I've said this before, but VR is very graphically demanding. You need to have, it's basically running two 1080p panels in a way.
Right.
In each eye. And then you have to maintain a really high refresh rate or frame rate of like 90 frames per second or higher consistently. If it drops, it kind of it can make you motion sick.
Yeah.
So it's really important to have a high resolution and a high refresh rate. The 1060 for $250 can do that. And also AMD also released a card not that long ago, the RX 480, which starts at $200. And I'm actually going to put together a VR build, like a really affordable VR build. I'm going to try to get it below $800 that can do that as well.
Cool.
Yeah, I saw Asus was selling one of their ROG systems built for VR for like $700, $600 recently.
Really?
Yeah, it was super cheap.
Wow, that's really
It may
good.
have been like a deal, but it's certain the discussion
It's
has
less
changed.
than the cost of a Vive.
yeah,
that's true.
But I think I see the discussion changing around VR pretty soon, like in the near future, where it's this cost prohibitive thing, and that's going to kind of go away. And people are just going to be buying PCs that this is VR, it just works on my PC.
Right.
I didn't buy it for VR. Like it's
Right.
just powerful enough out of the gate.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that because I think that's the sort of thing that's going to make devs more inspired to actually treat VR like a worthwhile pursuit.
Yeah.
Right.
That is a big...
It's not like to get a VR PC. It's like this magical sort of requirement. Like if you have a high-end gaming PC, that's going to be able to do it.
No, totally, yeah. But for a lot of people, I think they're not gaming like a
Savvy.
hardcore gamer. Yeah. And they're just like,
Right.
I've heard about
Yeah,
this
yeah.
VR thing. What do I need to do it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too expensive. Like,
It's that type of thing where you're like you budget for the $600 or $800 thing, and then you're like, oh, but I also like need to upgrade my graphics card. Like I used to get that a lot when I worked in retail, which was like people would come in and wanted to buy a game for their kid, and then you'd be like, oh, but your system requirements are this, and they'd be like, there's no point, then I'll just get them this other thing. Like, or they wanted to get them the new console and then realize that all the games cost way more because they're all new games. Like there's always that, once you add that like extra cost onto people, that it sometimes becomes that extra barrier that just kind of stops them from doing it.
Right.
So it should be pretty interesting, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that seems like a pretty good one. I'm guessing, like, what was the game at which it started to struggle at for you? Was it, because I see when your benchmarks, there's all, like, the good touchstones of, those crazy Eastern European first-person shooters, Bioshock Infinite, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so games like Bioshock Infinite, Shadow of Mordor, those games are sort of, what I would consider like mid-range graphics kind of games. Like they're gonna look pretty, they're gonna run pretty well or well optimized. Games that will really push your system include Metro Last Light,
Right.
And like Rise of the Tomb Raider. Yeah, I mean like The Witcher to some extent, to a lesser extent. But yeah, I'll test out a bunch of different games. So like BioShock Infinite will be like, here's a game that's not super easy to run, but like it will run on like, it should be able, it's like a moderate game. And then like Metro Last Light will be like, here's the final test. Like if it can do this one, then it can do this resolution.
Have you thought about introducing Doom into that? I'm seeing a lot of people talking about how like
the new Vulcan.
the Vulcan.
I think Peter was complaining that my reviews are too long, so I don't know if I want to add more benchmarks, but I certainly can look into it in the future.
Is there such a thing as too long for a hardware review? I feel like the people who are
my
looking
reviews
for
are
that stuff,
my reviews are really long.
I think
They
the
are
last
very
one
long.
was like 4,000 words.
So it's like reviewers are like, how come you don't add more benchmarks? And I'm like, this is already ridiculously long. And then not only that, I have to go and like test like 5 other cards, like run all those benchmarks too.
of course.
And then like a lot of people don't know, like sometimes I have like 3 days or whatever, like a week to review these, and I don't have time to like running benchmarks like takes time. Like I can't.
It seems simple, right? Just go to for some games, just go to the menu and hit benchmark, but it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and I'm
like,
I'm also doing like experiential benchmarks where I'm literally playing the games. I'm like running fraps and recording average frame rates and things like that.
Yeah, it's stuff like that, right?
So it's very time intensive.
Last question on the 1060 SLI.
Yeah, so SLI is not supported, which
Right.
is this is
It's not a bit of a shame for because then you think, you
Yeah.
could run an SLI setup for 500 quid. Like that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, so in general, I wouldn't recommend most people go out and buy SLI system. I generally recommend people buy one powerful graphics card over 2, because with SLI you have performance scaling issues. Like some games don't even support SLI. Some games will run worse on SLI. Even I think Assassin's Creed, one of the Assassin's Creed ones, had that issue. Having said that, though, some games do support it, and it's nice to have the option. Especially later on down the road, like let's say a year or 2 from now, when 1060 is really cheap, you'd want to like just get another one for cheap, and then add an SLI, get like near double performance in some games. But with 1060, it doesn't support SLI, which was very surprising to me. I asked NVIDIA why, and they said that it's not very common in mid-range GPUs, and that they're sort of relegating that to the 1070 and 1080 GPUs where it's more common.
Do you think that we're, I don't know how to say past SLI, but do you think SLI will sort of continue to exist, or have we reached the sort of, we've jumped up so good at
You're always going to need
again?
more power. You're always going to need more. VR is always going to need more power. People are always going to want better graphics, I think. Next generation consoles are always going to come, kind of thing. So it's, I think we're always going to want more power. I was actually interviewing Tim Sweeney the other week, and I asked him, like, how many teraflops would we need to reach photorealistic graphics? And he said he thinks around 40 teraflops. And
40?
40.
Okay.
And the 1080 is like 9 teraflops, and the new Xbox is like 6.
Right.
So like sort of gives you the idea, like we're far away from like achieving realistic graphics.
There you go. A lot more work to be done. Jimmy Thang, thank you so much for coming in. 1060, your full review is on GameSpot.com. If you want all those hot benchmark stats, head over to the site and check it out now.